Jake Landry wasn't the type to pick fights, or take risks for that matter. At Lincoln High, he was just another average junior trying to get through each day without drawing too much attention. He liked to think of himself as practical, someone who stayed out of drama and stuck to what he knew. But all of that changed the moment he saw Amy Grant. Amy wasn't just beautiful, she was radiant. Her auburn hair shimmered in the sunlight, and her laugh was a melody that lingered in the air. She was kind too, always smiling at everyone she passed in the hallway. Unfortunately for Jake, she was also very much taken. Her boyfriend, Darren Cole, was a senior and Lincoln High's golden boy. Darren wasn't just popular. He was the captain of the kickboxing club and a state champion. Everyone respected him, feared him, or wanted to be him. And he loved to flaunt it, especially around Amy. Jake had no business even looking at her, but that didn't stop him from falling for her. It started as small glances across the cafeteria. Then he began showing up early to class, hoping to catch a glimpse of her walking with Darren. Before long, he was daydreaming about what it would be like to talk to her, to make her laugh, to be the one holding her hand. One day, Jake's friend Mike caught him staring at Amy in the courtyard. "Dude," Mike said, shaking his head, "you've got a death wish." Jake blinked, startled. "What are you talking about?" Mike smirked. "You're practically drooling over Darren's girl. If he catches you, you're toast." Jake sighed. "I'm not doing anything. I don't know, man. She seems different, like she doesn't really fit with a guy like Darren." Mike raised an eyebrow. "Different or not, Darren will kill you if he finds out. Trust me, it's not worth it." Jake tried to take Mike's advice, but it was no use. His feelings for Amy only grew stronger. One fateful afternoon, Jake stayed late after school to finish a biology project. The halls were empty, the fluorescent lights buzzing faintly overhead. He was about to leave when he heard a voice. "Late night, huh?" Jake turned to see Mr. Santos, the school janitor, pushing a mop down the hallway. Santos was a quiet, unassuming man who had worked at Lincoln High for years. He was wiry and always seemed to have a knowing look in his eyes, like he could see right through you. "Yeah," Jake replied, slinging his backpack over his shoulder. "Just trying to stay on top of things." Santos nodded. "You look like you've got something else on your mind, though." Jake hesitated, then shrugged. "It's nothing. Just girl stuff." Santos chuckled. "Ah, the eternal struggle. Let me guess. It's complicated." Jake sighed. "You could say that. She's dating someone else. Someone impossible to beat." Santos leaned on his mop, studying Jake. Impossible, huh? Funny thing about that word. It usually just means no one's tried hard enough. Jake frowned. "What are you saying? That I should fight him?" "He's a kickboxing champion. I wouldn't last 10 seconds. Santos' eyes twinkled. "Maybe not as you are now, but with the right training, who knows?" Jake stared at him, incredulous. "You're joking, right?" Santos shook his head. "Meet me here tomorrow after school. I'll show you." The next day, Jake wasn't sure what to expect. Part of him thought Santos was pulling a prank, but curiosity got the better of him. After school, he met the janitor in the gym, where Santos unlocked a door Jake had never noticed before. Inside was a small, dusty room filled with mats, punching bags, and mirrors. "What is this?" Jake asked, amazed. "Used to be my sanctuary," Santos said, dropping his keys on a bench. "Before I ended up here, I was a martial arts champion, 3 national titles. But life has a funny way of changing your plans. Now I mop floors." Jake stared at him. "You're serious." "As serious as Darren Cole's right hook," Santos said. "Now, do you want to learn how to fight or not?" Training with Santos was no joke. Every day after school, Jake spent hours in the hidden dojo, learning the basics of martial arts. At first, he struggled with even the simplest moves, but Santos was patient and relentless. "Fighting isn't just about strength," Santos said one afternoon, holding a focus mitt for Jake to punch. "It's about discipline. Control. A clear mind wins fights, not just a strong body." Slowly but surely, Jake improved. His punches became sharper, his footwork quicker. He began to feel stronger, not just physically but mentally. Santos didn't just teach him how to fight, he taught him how to believe in himself. The real test came one Friday during lunch. Jake was sitting with Mike when Darren and his crew walked in. Darren was laughing loudly, his arm draped over Amy's shoulders. Jake couldn't help but glance at her, and for a moment their eyes met. She smiled, a small, fleeting smile, but it was enough to make Jake's heart race. Unfortunately, Darren noticed. "Hey, Matthews," Darren called, his voice booming across the cafeteria. "Got something to say to me?" Jake froze as the entire room turned to look at him. Darren strode over, towering over him. "Or were you just staring at my girlfriend?" Darren sneered. Jake's hands clenched into fists. "Maybe I was," he said, surprising even himself. The cafeteria gasped. Darren's smirk disappeared, replaced by a dangerous glint in his eye. "You got guts, I'll give you that," Darren said. "How about we settle this? Tomorrow, noon, at the park." Jake swallowed hard but nodded. "Fine." That night, Jake told Santos about the challenge. "You're ready," Santos said, his tone calm. Jake shook his head. "I'm not sure I am." Santos placed a hand on his shoulder. "You got the skills. Now you just need the confidence. Remember, Darren's biggest weakness is his ego. Use that against him." The next day, a crowd gathered at the park. Word had spread quickly, and half the school was there, including Amy, who stood near Darren with a concerned expression. Jake took a deep breath as Santos tightened his hand wraps. "Remember your training," Santos said. "Stay calm. Stay focused. You've got this." Jake nodded, stepping into the makeshift ring as Darren cracked his knuckles. "Last chance to back out, Matthews," Darren said, smirking. "Not a chance," Jake replied. The fight began, and Darren came out swinging. His punches were fast and powerful, but Jake was ready. He dodged and blocked, staying light on his feet. "Is that all you've got?" Darren taunted, throwing a high kick. Jake ducked under it and countered with a quick jab to Darren's ribs. Darren staggered slightly, surprised. The crowd roared as the fight continued. Darren grew more aggressive, but his movements became sloppy. Jake, on the other hand, stayed calm, waiting for his moment. Finally, Darren overextended on a punch, leaving himself wide open. Jake seized the opportunity, delivering a clean kick to Darren's chest that sent him sprawling to the ground. The crowd erupted in cheers as Darren struggled to his feet, glaring at Jake. "It's over," Jake said, his voice steady. Darren scowled, but didn't argue. He turned and walked away, the crowd parting to let him through. Amy approached Jake, her green eyes filled with admiration. "That was incredible," she said. Jake smiled, wiping sweat from his brow. "Thanks. I couldn't have done it without a little help." Amy glanced at Santos, who stood in the background, nodding approvingly. "Well," Amy said, her cheeks flushing slightly, "maybe you can tell me more about it over coffee sometime." Jake's heart soared. "I'd like that." As the crowd dispersed, Santos clapped Jake on the back. "You did good, kid," he said. Jake grinned. "Thanks for everything. I couldn't have done it without you." Santos shrugged. "Just remember, the fight doesn't end here. If you want to keep what you've earned, you've got to keep working for it." Jake nodded, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, with Amy by his side and the lessons of a janitor turned champion guiding him.